We got breaking news out of the NBA where Paul George is set to miss the next 2 to 3 weeks with a sprained right knee. PG was injured during the fourth quarter of last night's loss to the Thunder and was unable to return. If George misses a full 3 weeks, that would knock him out for the rest of the regular season. The Clippers currently sit in 5th place in the Western Conference, headed into tomorrow's rematch against OKC. And for more on this, let's now welcome in NBA analyst Avery Johnson. Clippers sitting 5th in the West there, Coach. 1 game up on the Golden State Warriors. What do they look like over the next few weeks without George in the lineup?
Where they're a different team because they arguably lose, one of their top 2 defenders, a guy that they can play through on the offensive end. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard is a huge focal point when he's in the lineup, but you lose a guy that can pass, dribble, and shoot. He's long, athletic. He can guard basically 4 positions on the floor. He had 2 impressive dunks in this game before this knee injury. So this is very disappointing for the Clippers with Paul George coming down wrong and having this sprained right knee. It didn't look good. I'm glad it's not, an ACL or a type of an injury that's going to keep him out for a year. So they are going to get him back at some point. But this definitely will allow the Clippers not to move up any higher. I think they may move down 1 or 2 spots with Paul George being out for the rest of the regular season.
Yeah. So, Coach, how do they make up for that loss in production with George set to be out? And as you mentioned, I mean, is it about just trying to stay 500 at this point moving forward because it's not looking like you're going to be able to move up much higher?
Yeah, and again, you got guys like Eric Gordon, Russell Westbrook. Those guys they traded for them for a reason. You don't only trade for them for depth. You trade for those type of players that if you do have injuries to some of your top line players, that when their minutes are increased, they've done it before. Eric Gordon has been a really good player in the NBA for a long time. Obviously, Westbrook has been a superstar and been MVPs. So they have guys that are capable. Nicholas Batum, who's a really good defender, he'll probably have to be inserted into the lineup and play alongside Kawhi Leonard. So they have the bodies, the capabilities to Covington to make up for Paul George's loss. But again, you got to put together 2 or 3 of those guys to make one Paul George. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, again, Paul George out for 2 to 3 weeks, set to be reevaluated in 2 to 3 weeks after suffering that knee sprain last night. Coach, how concerned are you from a conditioning standpoint when you have a player like him? I mean, obviously timing for any injury is bad, but now the season's winding down. He's potentially going to miss the rest of the regular season, which means he comes back when every game has a little bit of extra meaning. So how concerned are you at this point about conditioning, given the fact that he's likely going to have to stay immobile for the next few weeks?
Not really concerned in terms of conditioning. Paul George is a type of player who's always been a phenomenally conditioned athlete. He's never really had weight problems, whether it's underweight or overweight. This guy, could come back after 2 weeks, practice for 2 or 3 days, and then he'll be ready to go. Some athletes are just that way. Now, if you had a guy that has a significant, maybe weight issue, then it may take him longer. You just can't be trustworthy enough of him when he's reinserted in the lineup to be ready to play. Paul George could come back and not even be on a minute restriction, because I've been in situations like that, but because I was in such phenomenal condition, I could miss, a week or 2 and it would take me 2 or 3 days to get back and be ready to play. So I'm not overly concerned about Paul George coming back and taking a long time to be ready to go.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.